Hey, everybody. Welcome to FL Teams Live. FL Teams is your top Florida sports source. We're dedicated to providing you with the best Florida sports coverage that you can find on the interwebs. And we do these FL Teams Live shows. But make sure you subscribe wherever you're watching this and on all the social medias that you're a part of, because we have a lot of fun stuff. The YouTube channel, if that's where you're watching this. A lot of cool highlight stuffs and very quick post-game reactions of the Lightning playoff games, if you're interested in such things. Subscribe to FL Teams wherever you are on your social medias. I'm Jeff Macolino. You might know me from reacting to the Lightning games immediately when they're finished. Joined today by Andrew Eshman of the Jag Roar podcast. How are you, Andrew?
Doing great. Glad to be back. How you guys doing?
Awesome. Thank you. Glad to have you back. And also joining us is the president, CEO, and king of FL Teams. I probably left off a few titles. It's Isaac Edelman.
Hey, of course. I'm glad to be on. FL Teams is the best. And look, excited to talk about NFL. It's an interesting time period, right? I mean, it's the off season. It's not yet training camp. It is mini camp. But this is an interesting time period because you start to see injuries arise, right? You start to see some final free agency news. As of now, we have some retirements that we're going to discuss. Some contract details are being worked out. So it's an interesting time period because news is starting to happen again. It's kind of been a dead period, but we're kind of starting to get topics to discuss, and that's good for FL Teams.
Yeah, it's a fun time and a time of optimism for all fans, and except for probably Cleveland Brown fans, but we'll get to that later in the broadcast. Let's start with the latest breaking news. In case you haven't heard, the Rams signed Cooper Kupp to a 3-year, $80 million contract extension. $75 million of that is guaranteed. So it looks like Kupp is due $110 million over the next 5 seasons. So only slightly more than Christian Kirk. But his annual benefit in this 3-year extension makes him one of the highest receivers. Obviously, he had a tremendous year last year and helped lead the Rams to the Super Bowl. And I guess this ties in with news that just came out, I believe, yesterday or the day before. Aaron Donald, who was talking about potentially retiring prior to the Super Bowl, he's not retiring. He got a 2-year, $60 million contract extension. He's the first non-quarterback to break the $30 million a year threshold. So the Rams don't have a lot of cap space, but they are throwing money at their big superstar players, which, tends to be a strategy that works out pretty well. What are your guys' thoughts on what's going on in Los Angeles?
Do you want to take that, Isaac, first, or?
I'll let you take it, man. You're a Jaguars fan. You have Christian Kirk, so I want to hear your thoughts on the money.
Yeah, well, the Rams, especially Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald, can thank the Jaguars, mainly more Cooper Kupp with the crazy Christian Kirk deal. But all kidding aside, I mean, Cooper Kupp, I feel like he deserves every penny of that extension. I mean, amazing wide receiver. I still feel like he doesn't get enough, credit from the media, sports media. He kind of flies under the radar, but I mean, he's an amazing player. And I think he has a lot more years left in him. So it'll be exciting to watch. Aaron Donald, again, another player, phenomenal defensive lineman. I don't know how much, gas he has left in the tank, but just with age, and that's a position where you take a lot of, beatings, and, you're getting hit every play. So, but yeah, I like it. I like the 2 signings, investing in guys that, are solid, team players and are fan favorites. So I love the deal.
Yeah. I also like the deal. I mean, obviously Cooper Kupp was a key part to the Rams winning the Super Bowl, including their path, right, to making the playoffs and advancing. to say the least. I mean, he's a heck of a receiver. He gets the receptions, he gets the yards after the catch. He's a terrific route runner. And look, Matthew Stafford and the Rams are going to want to run it back this upcoming season. And what better to run it back than Cooper Kupp? Not just this year, but in the upcoming years, right? They also have Allen Robinson, and now they have Aaron Donald coming back. So, exciting news for the Rams. I want to talk about a team like the Falcons, right? They made the Super Bowl, but after that, they were like done, right? The Rams don't want to be done after winning this past season. They want to continue being a threat in the NFL. And obviously, Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp are arguably their best two players. So if you want to run it back, you have to have your two best players. So the Rams are doing good things, and they look to continue doing those good things.
Yeah, that wide receiver core is nasty. I mean, Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp. I mean, they're going to do some good things. I mean, does Cooper Kupp play special teams as well? Does he do kickoffs or punt returns?
Not anymore. He doesn't.
Okay. Yeah.
Not with that kind of money.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's an interesting philosophy you see some teams take where they choose to, instead of signing their superstar to a huge extension, they decide to keep some of the mid-level guys and trade away the superstar or let them go. I don't think winning franchises do that, quite frankly. I mean, I think Cooper Kupp is a top 5 wide receiver, if not the top. He was the top receiver in the NFL last year. Aaron Donald is the best defensive player, like arguably for the past decade. Maybe a J.J. Watt, maybe a couple seasons in there. Aaron Donald is just a dominant force on defense. You don't let those guys walk away or retire or hit free agency. You let your third receiver walk. They might not be able to afford Odell Beckham later in the season if he, becomes available, but you don't need him when, you need to lock up your superstars. And I think some teams, again, this was my qualm with a team like the Titans, who let A.J. Brown go. I think he's a top 10 receiver in the NFL. I don't think you let that guy walk out of your building for anything. I don't care how many players you have to lose to keep a superstar in the building. Maybe I overrate A.J. Brown, which is a possibility, but I think the Rams have an approach that I think teams that I don't know. I feel like the winning franchises do not ever let superstars walk out of their building. You can go back and look at every example when, the Chargers let Drew Brees go. Even the Packers letting Brett Favre go, although the year with the Jets wasn't great. He almost led the Vikings to the Super Bowl the following season. I like what the Packers did with Aaron Rodgers, for example. They're not going to let him go anywhere. He announced he's not going anywhere. He's going to retire with the Packers. The Packers, rightfully so, did everything he possibly wanted to make sure he would commit to that. I don't know. So I think it's a good move. Like you said, Isaac, they want to win. They're doing what's needed. They're going to have to make some financial sacrifices, but they're going to be, obviously, especially in a weak NFC, they're going to be right at the top of it, going into 2022.
Jeff, I disagree on the Aaron Donald statement. If Urban Meyer doesn't know who Aaron Donald is, he's not a good player. So
that's true. If he was a hot co-ed, though, he'd have his digits.
He was in his bar, right? Had to do that.
I love it. Anytime we can knock Urban Meyer on this show, I feel like is a win for everyone. In some other news, let's talk about a couple guys who have some Florida ties that are walking away from the game. Most notably has to be Frank Gore, who's went to Miami, played for Miami, obviously most of his career in San Francisco. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who played for Miami and Tampa Bay. And Alex Mack, who was a 7-time Pro Bowl center, the significant player, I think borderline Hall of Famer. Those 3 guys all announced their retirement. Frank Gore, I think, has to be a lock for the Hall of Fame. It's amazing how long he stayed around the game, 16,000 yards. He was playing until he was 37, which is arguably more impressive than Brady playing until he's 2027, whatever long he's going to play. Who cares? For a running back to last that long and really not miss a lot of games along the way. Very impressive career. And I've always had a soft spot for Ryan Fitzpatrick too. He played for 9 teams, started for 9 different teams in the NFL, which is pretty. He's kind of the. I would love him to write an autobiography about what he saw in his NFL career, because it has to be amazing. All the different franchises he played for, what he saw, and he. His career numbers, he's certainly no Hall of Famer, but he ends up with almost 35,000 yards, 34,990 yards, and 223 touchdown passes. Solid career for a guy who was not highly regarded coming out of Harvard. So any thoughts, Isaac? I know you had 2 of these guys play in Miami for short stints, but nonetheless, they made stops there.
Yeah, well, look, I'm going to start with Ryan Fitzpatrick here. As a Dolphins fan, I loved him, Fitzmagic. And as a Buccaneers fan, you love Fitzmagic. And as an NFL fan, you love Fitzmagic. So it becomes obvious that this is a tough retirement. Yes, he may not be a top QB anymore. He may not even be a serviceable backup, which I think he is. But Fitzmagic is now gone. I don't think this is the last we see of him. I remember in the Bills playoff game, we saw him in the stands with no shirt on. I also have heard rumors that he may want to be an announcer. Look, whatever happens, Fitzmagic's career is notable. I mean, with the beard, he's always going to be notable. But the performances he had were terrific. I mean, I talk about that Dolphins-Raiders game, and he made that pass while, the defender held his helmet. Just so many plays in his career are going to go down in the record books. But Frank Gore, you have to talk about when he discussed record books. I mean, this is arguably one of the best running backs of all time. I was kind of hoping he would last a few more years because his son, I believe his name is Frank Gore Jr., is in college and he may make the NFL. So I was hoping they could play in the same backfield together. But hey, Frank Gore's time's over. He played a lot of years. I think Adrian Peterson, I don't think he announced his retirement yet. I hope I'm not wrong on that. But Peterson's also coming towards the end of his career. So, yeah, Gore and Fitzpatrick, it's not surprising that they retired, but those are 2 big losses just for the NFL in general and the NFL fan base because they meant a lot to past teams. And honestly, many adults that watch the game grew up watching these players in their prime. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, grown-ups like Andrew and I. And Andrew, Jacksonville is one of the few teams that hasn't seen any 3 of these guys in the market. I guess the Saints are also, but what are your highlights of these guys and their final goodbyes?
Yeah, Frank Gore, just piggybacking off what you guys said, great running back. I mean, amazing career, just the longevity. He also helped us get, Trevor Lawrence, right, with the 1st-round draft pick there. So that's nice. We appreciate that as Jaguars fans. Ryan Fitzpatrick, great player. He's torn us up a lot, in the regular season. I think we played them in 2020, and he showed that he's an elite quarterback. So yeah, and he just plays with a lot of heart. I mean, he's got a lot of moxie with the beard and so yeah, I love those 2 guys. Frank Gore, I heard there was rumors that he may be going into boxing too. I heard that he was on the Pat McAfee show. So I mean, I feel like he's done enough and he's probably beat his body up enough. I'm a little surprised he's going into boxing, but this guy can do anything. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I believe he had his first match even already. He is looks like he's 1-0 with a knockout. I'm sure it was not a highly ranked boxer. Yes. Well, I'll say it's a boxer whose name I cannot pronounce. But Frank Gore did win his first match. That was actually just less than a month ago. You're right, though. I don't know why he'd want to put his body through that abuse after a long, lengthy NFL career. However, obviously his body is not built like arguably any other running back who's ever played, because he just stayed healthy and stayed on the field. So yeah. Good careers for all three of those fellas. And congrats on that. And at least one of them will be in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully Frank Gore doesn't have to wait at all and he gets in on the first ballot. Some other news that just came out recently. So this is an interesting one, and I guess sums up the where the NFL is. The Denver Broncos looks like they're going to be sold to a group led by Rob Walton of the Waltons for $4.65 billion. For comparison, I believe the last sale was when the Panthers were kind of forced to be sold, but they sold for $2.3 billion back in 2018. So only 4 years later, the Broncos selling for double that amount, or more than double that amount. That $0.05 billion is a pretty substantial amount of money too, I suppose. Is it just further backing up that NFL is king, or do we need to get an inflation expert in here? Or is any NFL franchise going to ever sell for lower than this amount, do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, the NFL is just a cash cow. I mean, with the merchandise, TV money, I mean, it's lucrative. I don't think the Jaguars would sell for lower than that either. And I mean, they haven't been a traditionally good, football team or franchise for a while, but I just think there's a lot of people that love NFL. The market is also expanding over to, Europe. We're playing, games in Britain. So I think it's just going to go up. I mean, I feel like, fans they're just flocking to football right now.
Yeah, I agree. But one thing I could tell you about is the Broncos are not that bad for that value. I'll tell you why. If you look at the past two Super Bowl winners, Tom Brady, that was his first year with the Buccaneers. They won. Matthew Stafford, first year with the Rams. The Rams won the Super Bowl. The Broncos have a solid chance at winning the Super Bowl this year. Now, they have to get past the AFC West. If they can get past AFC West, which I think is possible, I'm not saying it's going to happen or it's even likely, but if it does happen, the Broncos are my sleeper team because the Broncos have a solid core. Like I said, Russell Wilson's in his first year with the Broncos, and if you look at Tom Brady in his first year and Stafford in his first year, well, their teams won the Super Bowl, so maybe the Broncos are going to follow that trend. The Broncos have Jerry Jeudy, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams is a heck of a back. I think he's soon going to be a top 10 running back in the NFL. And Courtland Sutton, if he stays healthy, he's certainly good. They also have Patrick Surtain, who's a heck of a cornerback. I could go down the list. Bradley Chubb's a great linebacker. KJ Hamler, decent wide receiver. I mean, you go down the list. And the Broncos aren't that bad. They're definitely better than they have been in the past. So the Broncos are a sleeper team. And I know we were talking about the ownership. But hey, if the Broncos win a Super Bowl this season, I think that's a pretty good sale. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They also have a pretty good tight end, right? Then Noah Fant.
Noah Fant. Yep.
Yeah. No, he's now on the Seahawks.
He was traded. Yeah.
He was traded. My bad.
Well, hey, at least Drew Lock got a good.
It was so good they could keep him. Yeah, that AFC West is I've been looking at that division and trying to figure out who I'm going to predict to win it. And frankly, I'm leaning towards the Raiders or the Chargers.
Wow,
and
not
honestly,
even the Chiefs and Broncos. That shows you how
I probably have the Broncos last, but that shows you how tough that division is, because I think I'd pick them to win at least the AFC South or the AFC North. I think the Broncos would win easily. The AFC East, I think the Bills are probably still the king of the conference in my eyes.
Yeah.
But no, I think the Broncos in a normal season are an 11-12 win team. I wonder with the AFC West if all of these teams, which in a normal season would easily, I think, win their division, I wonder if they're going to beat each other up so much that it's just going to be a war of attrition a little bit.
Yeah.
6 out of 17 games are division opponents, and those are going to be not easy. They got 4 excellent quarterbacks. They've got, the Raiders and Chargers, you look at the weapons they have on offense, it's astounding. And they also added gigantic Chandler Jones was added to the Raiders defense, Khalil Mack to the Chargers defense. That division is stacked. I would not enjoy the prognostication of that division if I was a fan of one of those 4 teams, because 1 through 4, it's a crapshoot to me. I would not be surprised at any order in that division.
Yeah. Russell Wilson has a lot on his plate.
Yeah, and he's had problems staying healthy too, right? He was hurt last season with the hand injury, right, where he couldn't throw and he was out for a couple games. So if he can stay healthy, I agree with you, Isaac. I think they could be a sleeper team. But if he gets hurt and he goes down, who's their backup? What, Drew Lock, right? Or
no, Lock's in Seattle.
I'm sorry. Yeah, he went to Seattle, or he's in Seattle. So who's their backup?
I don't know off the top of my head who's their backup.
Brett Ripien and Josh Johnson.
Oh.
Not notable backup quarterbacks. Other teams have notable backup quarterbacks, and I think this is a good way to switch into minicamp news with Baker Mayfield, right?
Yeah.
Jeff? Because with the Deshaun Watson news,
sure,
and now Baker Mayfield, it looks like Jacoby Brissett may be the man in Cleveland. And I know him from his time in Miami when Tua was on the bench this past season.
There was no way that so the one big piece of news is that the Browns excused Baker Mayfield from minicamp because they still haven't been able to trade him. He obviously under no circumstances was going to show up. The Browns did the smart thing because you don't want to offer to fine him and have him show up, because that can cause some sort of crazy chaos inside of the locker room if he did show up. Boy, I think the Browns might be having some buyer's remorse right now, especially since, there was more to come on the Deshaun Watson front. Jacoby Brissett, I thought that, they were looking at least 8 games with him as the starter to begin with. 6 to 8 games, I thought, at minimum. Now I think it might be the whole 2022 season. Who knows? Deshaun Watson, in essence, was kept off the field last year by Houston and by the NFL. Not to dive into the New York Times article and to go into all those awful things, but with more details, I don't know that the NFL is going to let him play. I don't even know if they're going to suspend him. I think they might just say, nope, you're still not playing. We're still looking into this further.
Yeah. But by the way, that's why I was really confused when the Browns traded, and this sounds silly, but it actually happened. The Browns traded Case Keenum, and then they struck a deal with Brissett. That just made no sense to me, because now you're going to have no Mayfield and no Watson. You're really stuck with just Brissett. Case Keenum arguably maybe even better than Brissett. And even if he's not, maybe you could at least have a quarterback competition. Because, look, I know the Browns are in a tough division. You got the Bengals, who just made it to the Super Bowl. The Ravens aren't that bad, obviously. They didn't do good last season, but you still have the one and only Lamar Jackson. And the Steelers, well, who knows? Kenny Pickett could put on a show. And look, the Steelers could be surprising.
Yeah.
I don't think they will, but they could be. You never know with rookie quarterbacks. But I don't understand why Brissett is really the lone quarterback in Cleveland. It's just mind-blowing to me, because, look, you knew Watson was going to be gone for at least a few games. And now, like you said, Jeff, it might be a whole season. Baker Mayfield kind of was never in question to be on the Browns roster. So I don't know what the Browns are going to do, but if you look at the Browns roster, right? I mean, Amari Cooper was signed this offseason. Nick Chubb is on the team. Jadeveon Clowney's on the team. Myles Garrett's on the team. Kareem Hunt's on the team. Like, this team has talent on the offensive end. A quarterback that's decent could put up numbers. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, lots of weapons there. Solid running game. Solid passing attack, or wide receiver core rather. And then the defense, like you said, Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett. Secondary is pretty decent. So I mean, they can be contenders, but the quarterback situation is just totally up in the air. And I don't know. I don't know if I maybe I missed this, but did Baker is he fully recovered from the shoulder injury, or is he still having to do some rehab on that?
I think he was expected to be in time for training camp, but where his training camp is going to be is still in question. I mean, the Browns painted themselves into a corner here, really. I mean, there's no way they could recover any relationship with Baker Mayfield, and nor should Baker Mayfield accept any attempts at that. The Browns, maybe they're upset that Ryan Fitzpatrick retired too, because I mean, their quarterback room is Jacoby Brissett and Joshua Dobbs right now, who's thrown, I think, 17 passes in 5 years in the NFL. That's you don't want him starting either.
I've had him on the podcast, actually. When he played for the Jaguars, he came on the podcast. And I interviewed him, so.
Well, that was probably the highlight of his career, frankly.
Well, like, my wife is huge Tennessee fan, so she really wanted me to get him on because he played for Tennessee. So
yeah. Well, hey, speaking of college football and speaking of the Cleveland Browns, let's move to a once USF star, right, Jeff?
Yeah, the Browns. You were talking about the talent. I think they might have the most talented running back room in the NFL. And one piece of that, who came through big a couple of times last year when Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb were down, is USF alum Dearness Johnson. He reached a deal, just a 1-year deal with them that includes more than $900,000 in guaranteed money, which is the best for a third running back in the NFL right
because
now.
He's the best running back in the league.
Yeah, no, I think he stepped in against the Broncos on Thursday Night Football, and he was outstanding. He made people miss. He broke tackles. He gained over 100 yards in his first time really being the bell cow back. And then he did continue to get the ball, not as much, obviously, behind Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but he was still a contributor on that team, which doesn't surprise me. His career at USF, he was behind Marlon Mack, who was one of the best running backs in the country. He also had Quentin Flowers at quarterback, who ran for over 1,000 yards himself. So Dearness Johnson caught balls out of the backfield. He was the running back 2, kind of 3, if you consider Flowers. He returned kicks. He returned punts. He led the team in special teams tackles his junior season. He did everything you could ask of a guy, on the field. So it does not surprise me. His story is one of the most amazing ones, too. He was the only team that even offered him a tryout after he did not get drafted. He didn't get an invite to training camp. He got a rookie minicamp tryout with the Saints, who didn't sign him to the 90-man roster. He was working on a fishing boat here in Florida, and you can go to his Instagram and actually see, he sent a message to the AAF, I think was the name of that league, saying, hey, I played 4 years at USF. I got a mini camp tryout with the Saints. I'm attaching my highlight reel. I hope you'd consider me for a tryout for this league. That league didn't even make it a full season, but he was a star on the field, like he is every time he's on the field. And luckily that landed him a kind of a long shot, I think, chance in training camp with the Browns, but he made the team. He's stuck there now a couple years. So he's already had a nice little start to his career, and after this year, he'll presumably be a free agent, and I think he'll have a pretty good market because he's kept a lot of mileage off those knees by being the third running back there in Cleveland. I certainly wouldn't mind him on my team to be, a number 2 backup behind a guy like Alvin Kamara.
Jeff, do
Mickey
you see
Loomis.
him? Jeff, do you see him like competing or beating out Kareem Hunt for that second spot, or you just see him as a third running back, rotational back?
I think he'll mainly just be a third back in that offense. I think I think they're pretty set with Chubb and Hunt. However, running backs, not many of them play all now 17 games. So the Browns run the ball a lot, and considering they don't have a quarterback right now, they're going to run it even more. So he'll probably, I imagine he'll only be getting a few carries when Hunt and Chubb are healthy. But there will be games where he'll get the ball 15, 20 times. And again, he can do everything. He'll contribute on special teams. He'll line up in the slot if you need him to. He'll return punts. He'll return kicks. He'll cover kicks. He'll do anything you need him to. He's a baller. So I'm excited for him to get a little cash in the pocket, because he's a guy who it always upset me watching him at USF. USF, and they had a great season with one of the most prolific offenses, and he was kind of the forgotten guy because he was behind Mack, and Quentin Flowers was the highlight machine, and Rodney Adams, who's making an NFL comeback, was superstar wide receiver. Dearness Johnson was just kind of that steady guy back there who didn't make the highlight reel most of the time, but he did everything you asked of him and more. And glad to see a guy like that, get to continue in the NFL and put a few bucks in his pocket. So shout out to the Browns. Aside from this quarterback deal, they've built a pretty stout roster. And again, I think the best running back room in the NFL with those 3 guys leading the way. And they got the rookie out of Cincinnati, Jerome Ford, who I think was a really solid pick in the draft also. So they've got, quite a 4 deep in that running back room for Cleveland.
Yeah. Jeff, I just wanted to piggyback off what you were saying about Dearness Johnson. I love that story, undrafted free agent, getting an opportunity with a team like the Browns. And then it kind of reminds me a little bit of the James Robinson, situation where he got a spot and ended up beating out Leonard Fournette, who was cut. And you could argue a million different reasons why that happened. Maybe the Jags were trying to tank, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, I like that story a lot, and I think he's definitely going to get some work this season.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens to Kareem Hunt, though. I am seeing some trade speculation as a result of the Johnson signing. I don't know if Hunt will get traded, but just keep your eyes peeled for that to happen, because, hey, there is speculation, and it's reasonable speculation, because you don't necessarily need 4 NFL caliber running backs in the same, running back room. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if only they could trade him for Baker Mayfield so they had a quarterback.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe
Sorry, Andrew, what was that?
I was just going to say maybe Johnson gets some special teams, opportunities there with, like you were saying, fielding punts or kickoffs.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think that'll about wrap it up for FL Teams Live tonight. There's always going to be stuff to talk about because the NFL is like the greatest reality show that exists in the world today. It's the only reality show I can even watch. So we'll keep bringing you these, but remember, subscribe to FL Teams. Please also go to the Jaguar podcast. Where can they find that, Andrew?
You can find it on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, pretty much wherever you get podcasted.
Awesome. Isaac, any final words?
Not really. Just keep your eyes peeled for some great content on FL Teams. Remember, flteams.com is your go-to one-stop shop for all Florida sports coverage, whether it's college teams, professional teams. We got you covered. Stay tuned. That's the Tampa Bay Lightning. Look to capture the three-peat, looking for 3 straight Stanley Cup championships. Also, keep your eyes out for the NBA draft coming up. The Miami Heat and Orlando Magic have selections. The Magic have the #1 overall pick, like the Jaguars did. And also, of course, when it is off-season mode for the NFL teams and the NBA teams in Florida, we will have some mock trades, mock drafts. We'll have all sorts of content. So, yeah, just check out FL Teams on social media as well. Look, we're top Florida sports source. You don't want to miss out on any content we produce.
Amen. Hit that subscribe button now. All right, everyone. For Andrew Eshman, Isaac Edelman, I'm Jeff Macolino. Have a good night and follow FL Teams.